Hi, my name is Sergi Bones and welcome to South Street 24 Media. Now, today I'm going to talk about what's the best plugin for mixing vocals. Now, I get loads of you sending me messages on my WhatsApp number saying, oh, Sergi, tell us what is the best plugin for mixing a vocal. I've got this vocal that I want to mix and I want it to sound professional, but don't know what the best plugin is. Tell me what it is so that I can put it on my vocal and sound professional. Now, guys, I'm here to tell you that there is no such thing as the best plugin for vocals. It does not exist. Okay, guys? It's all about knowing the science behind mixing and recording. Okay? It's a science. It has nothing to do with plugins. Okay? Now, today I'm going to teach you just the iceberg of it. But the iceberg is what's going to make the difference between you getting a good recording or a bad recording, okay? Or a good vocal mix or a bad vocal mix, okay? Now, here is the number one main thing for getting a good vocal. Number one, record in a space that is soundproofed or that has some sort of damping, and what I mean by damping is have some sort of things hanged around your recording area that stop reflections. Okay, now the number one thing that you should have as a kit when recording vocals is some blankets. Okay, some blankets really do amazing things to a recording. Now, you don't get a blanket and wrap it around you and go to sleep. No, I know you guys are smart. The blankets are for hanging around your recording area. Now, you could have, let's say, 2 blankets, and one of the blanket hanging behind your microphone to stop any reflections coming from your vocal hitting the wall and coming back into your microphone. And you could have another blanket behind you, okay, while you're recording, and the blankets need to be kind of like stretched out. So invest in a clothes rack. Okay, invest in at least 2 clothes racks and have one of the clothes rack with a thick blanket hanging in front of you, and one of the clothes rack with a thick blanket hanging behind you. And that's the number one thing that will be the first stage to getting a good recording and a good sounding vocal. Okay, now number 2 is your headphones. When you're recording, try not to make it bleed. By that I mean that when people record vocals, sometimes they're too hype. The beat is like blasting out of the headphones. That's very bad because that goes into your recording and it ruins it, guys. Okay, so keep your recording sound average, whereby it's not spilling out of your headphones. If you can afford it, buy some good headphones which are closed. Closed headphones are headphones that don't spill sounds, and here are a few examples. So guys, if you can invest in a cheap closed headphone, get it, and make sure while recording your sound does not spill into your microphone. Okay, guys? All right, number 3 is make sure that you have delivery. Okay, delivery is everything, guys. There is no plugin that can substitute your delivery, and by delivery I mean vocal delivery. Okay, you're not gonna get in front of the microphone and be dull and think that you just throw in a waves plugin and boom, you got yourself a vocal, man. It doesn't work like that. Okay, make sure when you're recording you're in a good mood and your voice projects. Okay, it projects into the microphone and captures the essence of what you're trying to say. Okay, that's another thing which is a major factor to getting a good sounding vocal. Okay, so those are the major things to getting a good vocal. Okay, another thing I could talk about is the cables. Okay, the cables that record the vocal from the microphone and send it to the audio interface are really important. If you have cheap cables, some of those cheap cables, if not most of them, sound really bad. Now you might not think of this as an important thing, but it really is. Add some sort of EQ to your vocal, and by the time it gets to your audio interface, the sound is not the same. So when you get to mixing it's already been damaged, and you will not get a very good vocal if you have bad cables. So guys, if you can invest into a good cable, it doesn't matter if you have a microphone that costs $150. If you have a quality cable, it will make a major difference. You know, quality cable plus some sort of soundproofing and delivery, that is the key number one to getting the first steps to getting a good sounding vocal. So let's move on to mixing. Now mixing, there are 4 things, if not 5, I could say that kind of are the major things for getting a good mix. Number 1 is a high pass filter. So if you use a high pass filter on all your vocals, I normally take my high pass filter up to 100. My vocal specifically, I go up to 120, but some people maybe 80, high pass filter. That could make a big difference, because then it takes out all the lower bass sounds of your vocal, which are not really needed in a vocal, unless if that's the type of music you're recording. But most of the time, 90% of the time, you will need to high pass minimum 90 hertz out of your vocal to get it sounding good. Next thing is compression. Now here's the trick with compression. When I first started out, I didn't know, I didn't understand compression. Here's a trick that you can use. It doesn't matter what compressor you're using from whatever company. If it's your compressor that comes with the software that you bought, use that compressor, okay? The trick is use the presets on the compressor. Play around with the presets, go from one preset to the other. It doesn't matter if the preset says kick drum, just try it out on your vocal and see how it sounds. It might just sound right, okay? Try out all the presets and find one that sounds right, okay? And then when you find one that sounds right, then you can maybe try and change the threshold. So the threshold is the number 1 thing that I could say you can start with if you don't understand compression very well. Play around with threshold, increase it or decrease it until you get a sound that suits you, okay? Now I could get into other things like ratio, I could get into release, but you don't really want to know that at this stage, because most of the people asking me these questions don't really understand the basic concepts of mixing, so I'm not going to get into that today. Next up is a little bit of de-essing, okay? So use a de-esser to reduce the sibilance of your voice, reduce the S's, and that helps make your voice sound a little bit more professional, a little bit more cleaner, because the S's tend to hurt people's ears. So the less S's you have in there, the sweeter it will be to listen to your music. After de-essing, you will need to add a little bit of our high end to your vocals. So I personally use a Poltech EQ to add a little bit of high end, but you can use the same EQ that you have used to high pass to add a little bit of high to your voice, add a little bit of high end to the voice, not too much, just slightly, and you will start to hear your vocal sounding a little bit better, okay? Next up is a little bit of reverb and delay. Now, sometimes I use reverb without delay, and sometimes I use delay without reverb, and sometimes I might use both depending on the vocal that I've recorded, you know. And guys, you have to go with your ears. If it sounds right, it is right. Okay, if you put just a little bit of reverb on and it's sounding good, leave it. If you put a little bit of delay on and it's sounding good, leave it. Okay, guys. You don't necessarily have to use all, you know, the recommended plugins for mixing. You don't have to use a reverb and a delay. A little bit of a delay may work, a little bit of reverb may work. If you're using a reverb, don't go for the big whole reverbs, you know, unless you're doing like if you're doing like ballads, you know, whereby the instrumentals is more like in the back and your vocals are more like the main thing, the main instrument. If you're doing ballads, then yeah, fair enough, you can use, you know, lots of reverb in there. But if you're not, if you're doing rap especially, if you add too much reverb, your vocal is going to sound very bad, and it's going to get lost in the mix. So stay away from the whole reverbs, you know, only if you know what you're doing and you know you have a little bit of experience using reverbs, then you can try out those big reverbs. Okay, but start with the room reverbs, the small reverbs. Okay, those are the really good ones for vocals, especially rap. Okay, so guys, those are, you know, my recommendations for getting a good vocal. No plugin will you know, no, you know, Waves plugin or whatever you want to name plugin is going to make your vocals sound better. What's going to make your vocals sound better is the steps you take before you start to mix. That is the recording stage. Okay, guys. So guys, I hope this answers your questions. All the guys have been asking me what's the best plugin. Now you know what the best plugin is. There isn't a best plugin. Okay, follow these steps and you will start to get results and you will start to hear your vocals improve. So subscribe and stay tuned, and yeah, keep your eyes open. Good stuff is coming, exciting stuff is coming, and I'll see you in the next video.